This is Ben Doughty for Sugar Silk and Stretch with Fleet Street legend Colin Hart. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, very well.
So, it was funny, I saw there was a bit of interaction between you and Prince Naseem Hamed when he was on the Dace earlier today, when he said, are you going to behave yourself? Is there really an old beef from the 90s between you two?
Right. Actually, I said to him, are you going to behave yourself?
Sorry, that was the way round.
Yeah.
He said, it depends what you say.
Yeah, right. Naz and I had a tempestuous relationship when he was fighting. I covered his career from the beginning right to the very end. And we had one or two ups and downs, but we ended up, as you could tell, friends.
So you patched it up long before today, of course.
Oh my goodness.
Bit of banter.
I mean, Naz has been retired for what, 20 years?
I was at his last fight, as I'm sure you were, which was 2002. It was in May. It was at the XL Arena. You were there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I was there right at the beginning to the very end.
It's funny, you know, I mean, I do consider him one of Britain's greatest post-war fighters, but the knock for some people, the detractors, they talk about how he never returned from... after he beat Manuel Calvo after losing to Barrera, but it didn't really go to a second chapter in his career.
No. I mean, I think he was very wise when he decided to retire, because he wasn't going to get any better.
Yeah.
And... you know, he'd had a terrific career. I think he was 28.
That sounds about right to me.
And so, you know, quite honestly, in my opinion, a lot of fighters should retire after a career like he had, and the money he made, millionaire. Why go on far too long? That's what happens, unfortunately, with a lot of fighters. They go on too long, they get beaten up, they're never the same.
Clearly you don't regard that as the same rule for journalists, because you were literally the last man standing from that era that you come from.
I hate to tell you, I'm in my 90th year.
It's unbelievable.
Listen, I don't know, maybe it's in my genes. Who knows?
How do you feel about the way the media has evolved in the decades since you came to prominence? It's very, very different, isn't it?
It is very different. It's now all to do with on websites. The newspapers don't cover boxing like they used to in my young day, unfortunately.
No.
So it has changed completely.
I mean, some people have said, not to sugarcoat things, some people have said there's this new generation of pseudo-journalists now, when they're really actually grateful fans who've got accreditation. They don't rock the boat. They're not opinionated or knowledgeable, perhaps like some people like yourself. And we have a rather diluted version of the press nowadays.
Well, of course, social media has taken over so much. It's not that they're not opinionated, they're having the knowledge. That's the point. Having the background in the sport. Some of them don't know a left hook from a code hook. But they think they're experts.
Yeah, and that is an issue, which is why it's good to see people like yourself from a proper credible background still here. Can I ask, when you come to these things nowadays, are you working and writing articles, or are you coming just to stay in the loop these days?
No, thankfully, I still have a regular boxing column in the Sun every 2 weeks. And I do a bit of broadcasting, and I've got to keep what's left of this brain going.
Sure, I mean, probably that might be some of the secret to your wonderful longevity and clarity, is the fact you just keep going. I can't remember who it was. I saw an interview once where you were talking about a certain person who used to do the obituaries, and you said, I always used to look in the obituary column, and if I'm not in it, I make a cup of tea and get on with my day.
That's what I do now, absolutely right.
So, as far as the signings today, we had Adam Hamed, son of Prince Naseem, who's announced the signing with Queensbury today. I'm not too sure why he didn't box since August, when he made his debut last year on the Usyk Dubois thing. I don't know if you have any insight into that.
No, I don't. What I will say is, I don't envy young Adam. It is very, very difficult for every son or daughter of a famous, brilliant sportsman or woman to follow in their footsteps.
Yes.
I mean, funnily enough, last month, Anthony Joshua, before his last fight in Saudi, said he's not going to allow his young boy to be a boxer because of the pressure he'll be under. And that gave me an idea for a column. when I spoke to Joe Butler Jr. and Ross Minter Jr.
Yes, yes.
The sons of famous fighters, and they told me how difficult it was trying to follow their fathers.
It's a double-edged sword, is it not? Because you get the publicity and a bit of a platform, but you get the expectations and the comparisons.
Well, always they're compared to their fathers, and they both said they went through hell.
Yeah.
In fact, young Minter, when he first started in the amateurs, was so aware of following his father, he had an assumed name.
Yeah, I didn't. I know Ross quite well, but I never knew that in actual fact. So I didn't know.
The name he used.
Perhaps his mother's maiden name or something. Perhaps.
I forget what his name he used.
I'm going to ask him later.
It didn't last long because people soon found out.
And he kind of looks like him. Yeah, for sure. So moving on to the other side in Chantal Cameron. I mean, it's always interesting for me to discuss this with a dinosaur, as it were, like yourself, and a doyen like yourself, because when you were coming up, the whole idea of women's boxing would have been an absurdity. Have you? Frank Warren up there today said he's acquired a taste for it, having been a little bit more sceptical and old school initially. Have you had a similar kind of acquired taste for the female game?
I have to admit, I was dead against women's boxing. Maybe because I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I have 3 granddaughters, and the thought of women coming in blood and gore just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
And I remember dear Jane Crouch when she was
trailblazer.
And I said to her, look, Jane, I admire what you're doing, but I'm not going to cover your fight because I don't want to cover women's boxing.
Yeah.
Obviously, things have changed. You evolve. You realise women's boxing is here to stay.
And I think it's the point I would make is I think it is credible by now.
Oh yes, unfortunately, and it's going to take some years. There's still no depth.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, and that's why
you've got 1 or 2 brilliant
standouts
fighters like Chantal, like Taylor, who
and Clarissa
are so
Shields.
far above everybody else. The fights are boring, they're mismatches because there's no depth.
The flip side of that is they have to fight each other, which is good in a sense, because we've seen, until very recently, we've seen a deadlock amongst some of the more meaningful matches in the male game. These days, that seems to have changed more recently with a certain infiltration of a
How many times
Saudi
have
gentleman.
we seen them fight each other? I know Ted Kid Lewis and Jack Britton in
22 times?
They fought each other 20 times.
Yeah.
And each one was a great fight, apparently.
Yeah.
But those days they were long gone.
You know, funny enough, I think that the 2 professional fighters who boxed each other the most, I think it was Danny Crippen and Mike Sweeney. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I don't know that.
Have a look at this one at some point, Colin. They boxed each other, I believe it was 53 times. I will check for the next time I see you.
Really?
But it was Mike Sweeney and Danny Crippen. Huh?
In the ring or in pubs?
They are accredited on BoxRec. These guys fought each other 50-odd times, which is...
I thought Britain and Ted Kid Lewis was a record.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to do a little bit of research on this for you, and maybe you could put it in the Sun as a little curio. But it's wonderful to see you looking so well and on the ball. Your presence at these things always reassures me. Thank you for making yourself available to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Cheers.